Let's go back in time to 1932 as Converse brings you historic footage of the legendary original Celtics, with whom all great professional teams are compared.
We have now taken over your radio.
Richie Guerin is about to show you the most important step in getting past a man. It's the first one.
And Oscar will inbound it. The men in green, the Milwaukee Bucks, that's Alcindor against Bellamy.
Has Jordan, Allen shakes free, gets two!
Gilmore
Stop! Brother!
lead Toledo artists, you get 21.
4:28 to go in the first quarter for the Cow Palace. Here's Barry.
Jordan, open, Chicago with the lead!
Hello, and welcome to the Over and Back Classic NBA podcast at thepodiumgame.com. I am Jason Mann, and with me as always is Rich Kraetsch. Rich, great to be with you.
Great to be with you as well. We're in full-fledged playoff mode. I love it.
We are.
It's great.
Yeah, we are back talking about more Game 7s. We have chosen our top 7 Game 7s in the conference finals, the third round of the NBA playoffs.
The undisputable list of best Game 7s.
There is no argument.
You literally cannot argue with it.
If you choose something that is different from what we have chosen,
You're wrong.
We will hunt you down and we will shoot you.
Yeah,
we will say mean things to you on Twitter.
Unless you have one that you think we missed, and then you could just send us a thing on, at OverbackNBA on Twitter, and then we'll probably agree. We'll probably say, oh, yeah.
I don't think we missed any here. I mean...
This is tough. There's not many to choose from, so I think we got it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a decent number of ones to choose from, but yeah, I'm going to... If we failed our listeners again, I will be a little bit disappointed. But I guess it'll just be an excuse to talk more about basketball and do more research, which we already enjoy doing. So,
right.
Yeah. So we're going to go through the honorable mentions before we actually get into the nitty-gritty of the list. So we start with the Hawks versus Lakers in 1961, the Hawks winning 105-103. It was the first season for the Lakers in Los Angeles, and Elgin Baylor had 39 points, Bob Pettit had 31. And this was basically kind of a changing of the guard. The St. Louis Hawks had been the main rivals for the Celtics, from the late 50s to the early 60s, winning the title in 58. And now after this season, the Lakers would, basically take that throne and would be would face the Celtics in most of the finals for the rest of the 60s. So, and failing to win any of them. But, So, but noteworthy performance, Elgin Baylor being awesome, even though the Lakers themselves actually were not particularly that great that year. But as we've talked about before, there was some weirdness going on with, teams making the finals with not great records during that time. So,
right. Yep.
And then our next one is from the next season, the Celtics versus the Philadelphia Warriors. Still, they were just about to move to San Francisco. It was 109-107. This is the second Wilt Russell playoff series, and Russell would win most of them, as most people listening to this probably know.
Breaking news.
It was one Mr. Clutch, Sam Jones hit the game winner with 2 seconds left. I wonder when Jerry West took the Mr. Clutch from Sam Jones.
Yeah, and was it up for a vote, or was it just a kind of... Was there a ceremony? Like, when did it happen? I don't know.
Or was it like everything else that the white guy would stole from the black guy?
Right. They just took it.
That's probably my guess, but I'm sure Jerry himself did not take it. I would blame the sports writers.
No, he probably did.
I mean, it's possible. I don't want to.
let's not doubt.
I don't want to libel, or I guess we would be slander.
No, I think we can.
I don't want to slander Jerry West. I don't believe that
we should.
Podcasts are immune from slander, Rich. I think we do have to actually be careful.
That's true. You're right.
So. Then we have another Wilt Russell clash in 1968. This was a year after Wilt had actually gotten the better of Russell, and the 76ers had beaten the Celtics and then later won the finals. The Sixers were heavy favorites, but in the series, but the Celtics managed to have the old magic, largely behind Sam Jones, John Havlicek, and Larry Siegfried. Wilt actually only had 14 points. Russell only had 12 points. And then for some odd reason, Chamberlain decided to only have one shot in the second half or the fourth quarter. And his explanation is that his coach told him not to shoot. His coach hadn't told him to shoot. And then his coach's response was, I never had to tell him to shoot before. So one of those
Wilt.
One of those Wilt things.
Wilt.
Yeah,
that's Wilt. But yeah, I love the comeback.
Yeah.
That's a great comeback.
I wouldn't think he would have to know what
like Wilt was only shot when instructed.
Yes.
The man who scored 100 points in a game was only shot when told to shoot. I'm sure that's exactly how that went. Usually.
Wilt. We have two from 1979. One is the Bullets beating the Spurs in the East. If 107 to 105, yes, the Spurs were in the East. George Gervin had 42. The Bullets were led by Bobby Dandridge with 37 and Elvin Hayes with 25. Dandridge hit a pull-up baseline jumper with 8 seconds left to put the Bullets up, and then Elvin Hayes ended up blocking James Silas's drive to seal the game. So I know that the Doug Moe, the coach of the Spurs, was not happy with the referees, saying that they had robbed them of the game. And the same year, the Sonics and Suns, 114 to 110, the Sonics won. And of course, these two teams ended up going into the Sonics and the Bullets went to the finals against each other. A rematch from 78, in which the Sonics won this time. And Jack Sikma in this game, only his second season, scored I guess a then career high 33 points to lead his team to glory. So next we have the Celtics against the Pistons, 117 to 114. The Celtics winning. This is the series in Game 5 in which the famous now there's a steal by Bird. Steal that the Celtics ended up stealing that game from the Pistons and eventually the winning the series. And Bird actually in this game played all 48 minutes and had 37 points, 9 rebounds, and 9 assists. He was involved in every Celtics basket in the last 6 minutes except for one.
It's not a bad idea.
That's pretty good.
Not a bad plan. How old is he at this point? Because
I think he's 29, maybe.
Oh, he's still okay. All right, he hadn't reached his 30s yet.
Yeah, I mean, he's 28 to 30 range. I don't remember.
Okay,
he started off a little bit late in his career, so he was I guess 31 actually. So
okay, well, I mean, still not bad for that. Yeah, I mean, you sort of
around there.
Yeah, I mean, but still, just be that straight up, killer at that age is pretty great. Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Yeah, I mean, and the injuries were starting to kind of take their toll on him already. But he was obviously still pretty fantastic. And next we have I guess worth mentioning the Pistons played the final 12 minutes without Adrian Dantley, who suffered a concussion in the third quarter. I believe he and Vinnie Johnson bumped heads. So I think the interesting thing here is that like the margins here were very close. Like the Pistons were extremely close, even after losing the Game 5. We're extremely close to going to the finals in this season. It'd be interesting to think what one more finals appearance or what one more championship would have done for how they're remembered.
Right, absolutely.
Then 1994, the Knicks beating the Pacers 94-90. The Patrick Ewing had 24 points, 22 rebounds, 7 assists, and 5 blocks. John Starks had a tough contested drive with about 30 seconds left, and then Ewing was able to get it off the rim and throw it down. And then the Pacers were unable to get Reggie Miller, a good shot for Reggie Miller at the end of the game, and the Knicks were able to take it. Of course, as we mentioned earlier, the Pacers would have the last laugh the next season. Yep. I guess it wasn't the last laugh, but it was the laugh of the.
I laugh. Yeah, it was a laugh at the hands of the Knicks.
Yes, there you go. And then in 96, the Sonics and Jazz, the Sonics winning 90-86. The Sean Kemp outplaying Karl Malone with 26 points, 14 rebounds. Malone 22 and 5 with an 18 of 22 shooting.
That was the thing for a while. Sean Kemp outplaying NBA legends.
I mean, Sean Kemp was really great for a while, and then
you kind of forget when he
gained 50 pounds, and that
what could have been?
Yeah,
because it comes up a lot when we talk a lot about all these
really
midnight
career, but
no, absolutely. But man, you look at this guy of just like a guy that's just. I mean, and this isn't the first time that we've mentioned that. We're mentioning a big playoff series with Sean Kemp being the best player on a team that's competing or whatever, and it's crazy just to think of his trajectory and just what happened to it.
So.
Right, so you think, oh God, I mean, these guys got another 8 to 10 years of being really good. Sure. No, not really.
And then our final choice is the Pistons beating the Heat 88-82 in 2005. The Heat led by 6 with less than 7 minutes to go, but the Pistons went on an 8-0 run. Ben Wallace dunking over Rasul Butler. Rasul Butler was in the league at that point.
You have to really look at the career Russell and really give it up for him, for that guy to stay in as long as he stayed in.
Who would have thought that Rasul Butler would outlast Ben Wallace?
I mean, he's outlasted a lot.
They got to be fairly close to the same age. Rasul's probably a couple years younger, but not that far, you know?
Yeah, what is it? He's 35 now?
Oh, maybe. Okay, then maybe Ben Wallace is like 5 years older. Never mind.
35, yeah, he's 35 right
Ben
now.
Wallace is 40, so all right.
Okay, all right. So a little bit, but man, he came in. Rasul Butler came in the league in 2002.
Okay, right. So Dwayne Wade went scoreless in the fourth quarter, missing all 6 of his shots and committing 2 of the 2 turnovers. So
no, he is not clutch in my mind.
No, definitely not. Yeah,
until I see otherwise, he is not clutch.
Yeah, so. Maybe look at what happened the next season. Maybe that'll
right. No. I go by small sample size to determine if people are clutch or not.
That's fair. Yeah. So those are our honorable mentions. I think they're pretty good.
Definitely
some good series. Are there any of those that you think like you might like be borderline for our list, or do you think our list is?
I think the one that I think a lot of people are going to bring up is that Celtics Pistons 87, because it's kind of the glory years of both teams, and it's obviously such a close game, and there's so much stuff that kind of happens in that I could see that one, but I don't know if it is necessarily as iconic as some of the ones we're talking about. It's got iconic teams, but when you really look at the list that we have, I think you're going to say, you know what, these guys are probably right, but that would probably be the only one that I would say for sure. And then maybe, you could talk about the one of the, the Wilt Russell ones. But I think we did a great job with these guys.
Well, yeah, thanks. I think we did a good job too. I would agree. I think the Celtics Pistons series, one, I think it's overshadowed by the Bird play in Game 5, and also there's a lot of other Pistons and Celtics iconic stuff that's kind of bigger than what happens in this game. That's better remembered for whatever reason, and we kind of go through it in some of the other in some of the other Game 7 shows. So yes, I think you're right, but I think our 7 choices, I think our listeners will be pleased by what we ended up going with.
Absolutely.
So our 7th favorite Game 7 from the conference finals is the Lakers taking on the Sacramento Kings in 2002, 112-106 in overtime. I guess this was the only overtime in conference finals history. I'm not sure if that's still the case.
Overtime Game 7. Overtime
Game 7. I'm sorry. Yes,
right. Because someone's gonna go, "Oh, you idiots!" So, of course, there's other ones.
Right.
No, overtime Game 7. So.
So.
It seems bizarre. That's tough to believe, but we're kind of finding out with the series is there's not many Game 7s. Like we really, especially when we get to the finals of this, that was hard to come up with more than we had 7 for sure, but it was like, man, we really kind of only have about 10 or 12 to choose from, so it's pretty interesting.
Yeah,
ones that
are tight, ones that that are
sure
close and interesting and all that. But yes, that's certainly the case. And each of the last 4 games came down to the final 5 seconds of regulation. There's kind of a famous referee controversy in Game 6. A lot of shenanigans during the time. I mean, this is definitely a fierce rivalry. Just incredible. Shaq puts up 35 and 13. I guess this was the first road Game 7 win in Lakers history, which is pretty impressive to think about. And I guess, a lot of them were against the Celtics, and all those they lost. So Kobe also was he had 30 and 10. He did cool off in the fourth quarter and overtime, but still productive. The Kings were just brutal in this game. I mean, they really just other than Mike Bibby, they pretty much all went cold.
Yeah, and they had so many opportunities to win this too, and this is one that you look at, and it's famous for a lot of different reasons or whatever. But one of the Kings, there was no reason they should have lost this game. Like when you really look at even if they did just slightly better at some like the fundamental things, like I don't know, making free throws or like having like Peja hitting 2 more shots than he did, or even 1 more shot than he did. Like you look at how how close this was with all that happening, and you realize, man, this was for them for the taking, and they just couldn't do it. They couldn't get it done. I mean, of every game that could have just changed a franchise around, this is one of them, and it didn't happen. And there's they really there's a lot of reasons. People have brought up conspiracy theories and all this sort of stuff. They had opportunities, they just didn't capitalize on any of them. So if this game was rigged, they did a really terrible job of doing it, because the Kings were very, very close to still winning. So it's always funny that this one comes up, because it's like, well, I mean, Jesus, like. For trying to rig it, they sure did give the Kings a lot of chances to win this game that they just did not take. So, yeah, as you mentioned, Peja Stojakovic shot 3 of 12 shooting. Doug Christie did nothing. Peja 0 of 6 from 3. I mean, come on. That's that's probably didn't happen very often, and that kind of sucks to happen in this situation.
And he has a wide open 3, in the final seconds, which would have given them the lead, and just completely overshoots the backboard. Doesn't even give a chance to get a rebound or anything, or overshots the rim, hits the other side of the backboard, and just, and Chris Webber just has a really bad turnover. Actually, Shaq had a couple of bad kind of clutch plays, but didn't end up really hurting them at the end. And the Kings, they missed 14 out of 30 free throws. They shot 2 for 20 from 3-point range. I mean, just disappointing considering, that was a really... I kind of feel like that was sort of a similar team to those early 70s Bulls that we talked about in terms of just barely like being memorable and being interesting, and just barely not being able to reach past the conference finals. I mean, they had some tough competition during that time. They obviously had a fierce rivalry with the Lakers that actually got Sacramento some national attention for a while. I mean, they really were an interesting team, but ultimately it ended up being short-lived for various reasons.
Yeah, and your favorite guy in the world, Mike Bibby, had a great game.
Yeah.
I'm sure you love that, and you're a big fan, and that's when you started wearing your Mike Bibby jersey, huh?
Absolutely.
Is that when you bought it? It was after this?
Absolutely. 29 points on 25, 25 shots, minus 13, plus minus. No, not that we play too, not that we buy individual plus minus too much, but. For the record, I don't actually hate Mike Bibby. I know a lot of people hate Mike Bibby. I'm actually he got the Hawks to a playoff series in 2008. So
exactly.
So I'm willing to overlook a lot for that. So
no, but this is just a great game, and one that if you get a chance to go look out, and really, yeah, it's like a iconic, historic Game 7, and it's pretty telling that this is 7th on our list here. So that'll tell you just about how good these are going to be.
Right. And then number 7 is the Golden State Warriors beating the Chicago Bulls 83-79. Speaking of the Bulls teams we were just talking about, and we talked about this Warriors team a bit during our Rick Barry podcast, and they also Barry was 31 at the time, and he didn't win MVP, but put together an MVP caliber season, just really carrying the Warriors, who were very young, into the playoffs. Also Jamal Wilkes, who was a rookie, playing supremely well, and just doing well. And the Bulls, I mean, they just had so much balance.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's one of the best things about the 70s era Bulls, and we talked about that in our previous episode where we kind of did the ones that we missed or whatever of the early rounds. And yeah, we talked about that Bulls team, and especially in this, you get it from this game, and it's kind of a microcosm of it. Is they get contributions from all of their top 5 guys. Chet Walker adds 21, Bob Love puts in 17, Jerry Sloan puts 14, Norm Van Leer 14, and Tom Boerwinkle 10. And that's that's pretty good if you can get your starting 5 all in double digits. And that seemed to be kind of a trend with those teams, and that's something that's kind of made them so good, but maybe was a reason why they never could quite get to that next level. And this game was kind of interesting as well. When the game's on the line, they don't really know who's supposed to have the ball and who's supposed to shoot and who their top guy is, and sort of you get that sometimes. The really awesome balanced teams are fun to watch, and they have great seasons sometimes, but then a lot of times it takes that one guy being the star that kind of puts you over the hump, and they didn't necessarily have that, but still, this is a great team. And they interestingly enough, it's kind of, you probably wouldn't think it, but the Bulls were kind of the favorites going into this series, and a lot of people assumed that this was kind of their year to either make a run to the NBA Finals or win a championship, and it wasn't to be, and the Warriors upset upset them, and then went on to do good old Rick Barry things. And as we mentioned in our first episode ever, win the NBA title. And in Rick Barry's, what is that, 11th or 12th year, I think?
Not
in the league. I don't have the exact number. Well, then you got to add the ABA.
His first year was 66, I think. So the 9th, 10th year. This was actually Chet Walker's final game, which I didn't realize.
I didn't know that. No, I did not know
he was
that.
actually still really good in his last season.
Why did you leave, Chet? Come on, maybe we could have won some games. Damn
I don't know.
Thanks for leaving Chicago.
There's an SI article on the Bulls from around that time about kind of how much they started hating each other and how much they, like how they, had kind of gotten along for a while and then they just kind of like got sick of each other, type of thing, which is interesting. So I'm sure that probably had something to do with it. But yeah, I mean, Chet Walker's kind of a sort of a forgotten great, but he is he's top 100 both in, or I believe he's top 100 both in total win shares and in win shares per 48, which is probably stronger than most people would view him in his career. But he's definitely had a very strong career. Of course, was also important for the Philly teams, including the '67 championship team.
Right. And he won a Tony Award, apparently. This cannot be the same Chet Walker, is it? It's not.
I would guess it's probably not. Yes, I would guess probably
I just did a Google search, and Chet Walker, director and choreographer, a Tony Award winning. No, it is it's a white guy.
Okay,
but
yes. Well, there you go.
So I can safely, unless he's gotten a lot of surgery.
White guy named Chet. That's
that. Yeah, he's an interesting dude, but he has a yeah. There you go. That's so not the same Chet Walker, in case you were curious. Our Chet Walker has not won a Tony Award.
No,
so.
I don't. Not that we know of.
That would be awesome if he did. But I feel like we'd heard more about that, or we would have done a show about that.
Probably, although I have to admit that the Tony Award's a bit of a blind.
I stay up. I have Tony Award parties and pick-ups.
Sure,
and,
that makes sense.
It's a big thing for me.
I can see that.
A very cultured man as myself.
Yeah,
so.
A man who loves the theater. So the next series is the Boston Celtics and Philadelphia 76ers from 1965. And it is most famous for the Johnny Most call of Havlicek stole the ball. Basically, the situation.
Never heard of it.
The situation is the Celtics have a 1-point lead. The 76ers were inbounding the ball with 5 seconds left. This was actually after Bill Russell had an inbound pass, but it hit one of the wires supporting the basket. So it was a turnover. Hal Greer was inbounding, tried to get to Wilt, but Russell was covering him. So he went to Chet Walker, who of course we just mentioned, and Havlicek knocked the pass away. It went to Sam Jones across the court. He dribbles it out. And then he sends it back to Havlicek in the corner, and then basically the crowd mobs him at that point. You've probably seen the clip. It's one of the most famous clips in NBA history. But, I mean, it was a terrific game and a terrific series. Red Auerbach actually, with just a few minutes left, Boston was up 7. He lit the traditional victory cigar, which is basically like his symbol, he thought the game was over. And then actually... the Sixers stormed back to make it a 1-point game, and almost ended up winning the game despite the victory cigar, which I guess famously no one ever came back after Red lit the victory cigar. So.
There's never been nobody can ever remember one? Or?
My understanding is no one has that never happened.
Okay.
I mean, maybe it's possible, but as far as I can recall from what I've read, that has not happened. So, but Wilt had 30 points in the game. Chet Walker had 24. Sam Jones had 37. Havlicek had 26. So good game. We don't have rebound totals in the box score of this game. So.
Stupid old box scores.
Yeah.
Why do they think they're terrible? Okay. The old box scores are awful.
Yeah. So, okay, here's a weird thing. What I don't understand is why they have free throws and free throws attempted in a box score, in a basic box score stat, but they don't have field goals attempted. They just have.
Right. I agree. It's the weirdest thing. I never know how efficient these guys are.
That is so strange. That must be why people constantly harp on free throws. Not that they're not important, but I just feel like there's this mentality that maybe sort of outweighs the importance of free throws. a little bit, so maybe that's like part of it. Like it was part of the basic box score. So like it got ingrained in like basketball brains of how important.
Right. You would look at a box score and see the guy was, 2 of 14 from the free throw line. You go,
right. So it's just one of those like tradition things, but I don't know.
They're so bad. Yeah. You see them on Basketball Reference, you're like, ooh, like, oh, like the worst thing to do on Basketball Reference is like scroll down at an individual game and just see like a bunch of blank spots. And you got points and you got free throws attempted. And you're like, God damn it. Yeah. Like this does nothing for me. I know nothing about this game. So yeah. It's all right.
Oh, no problem.
Basketball Reference, you do a good job at.
Yeah, we love you, Basketball Reference. We, not your fault that some of the data is not. It's not your fault that basketball was a pretty obscure sport until the early '80s, and so no one bothered covering aspects of it. So anyway, moving on. Our next,
but now that's what we do. So we have that.
Yeah,
so
right.
Except we don't have all the data. We have no idea what happened in the game really, but that's fine.
Yeah.
There's also not video of any of this stuff.
Yeah.
Either,
there's video of this, but I don't know if there's much that much video other than there's obviously the famous thing. I forgot. I don't know if I checked to see if there's extensive video.
The whole game. Yeah.
I doubt there's the whole game. There's probably sequences of it, but. Anyway, I'm sure somebody will let us know, or we'll probably check YouTube afterward and find out. So, anyway, our next choice is the Baltimore Bullets taking on the New York Knicks in 1971. This is a year after the Knicks had won their first NBA title, and the Bullets and Knicks played in the playoffs 6 straight seasons from 69 to 74. So, they've sort of very much had different styles. The Bullets had Earl Monroe, Kevin Lowry, and Gus Johnson, who were sort of explosive and crowd-pleasing and high-flying. Not really much defensively, other than maybe, Wes Unseld. And the Knicks were sort of more, defensive and, just known as a passing team and not so much the flashy play anyway. I mean, they had characters. Obviously, they had Walt Frazier and Will Street wasn't really a character, but he was, just kind of the enforcer. And they had straight-laced Bill Bradley and they had tough guy DeBuscher. I know how much you love when I talk about the Knicks.
Oh yes, yeah. Keep going on. I love it. So what an iconic team.
Well, you'll be excited to know that this is actually a series the Bullets won, where they dethroned the champs. Wes Unseld.
Oh, I thought the Knicks won like 4 straight titles.
You would think
they only won 1.
Well, they won 2,
or 2. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I thought they won 5 straight. I thought they dominated the team of the 70s, right?
Yeah. So,
you jerk.
Wes Unseld blocked Bill Bradley's game-tying jumper attempt in the final seconds, and the Bullets dethroned the champs. Fred Carter earlier, with just over a minute remaining, hit the decisive jump shot. And Kevin Lowry kind of made a good point in a quote afterward. He said, talking about how like Baltimore was always losing to New York, that they couldn't beat the Knicks and the Colts couldn't beat the Jets and the Orioles couldn't beat the Mets. So finally, when they beat the Knicks, that was their championship, and they did not do well in the finals against the Bucks. So they were swept in the against the Bucks. So I guess in a sense it was their championship. I guess it's a nice optimistic way to look at it.
I mean, because then you got Kareem, and that's no fun. That's not fair.
No, Kareem was pretty good at that point.
Yeah, 1971. Lou Alcindor, Kareem. Being able to play him. He was
good.
A title,
he was good for a long time after that too, but he was particularly good at that point.
Yeah, this was just like next level, like great stuff for at least in my mind. I mean, this was, I think, just his unbelievable year. But yeah, good try anyway.
Yep.
You got to the finals. That counts. Hey, you get to the finals, you're good. That's what I always say.
They made our list of Game 7, so that's a pretty good accomplishment right there. And so the next series is the Bulls and the Pacers. And guess who won this one, Rich?
In 1998. This was Jordan had retired, so it was the Cornell David Hersey Hawkins Bulls
in a Game 7 against the Pacers. Yeah,
right, in the conference finals. I believe the Pacers. Am I correct? Or I'm a year off. Never mind. This is still Jordan still here. Never mind.
Yes,
okay,
there you go.
Jordan. I believe Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls won. So
I think you might be right. So Reggie Miller.
It's not a very good game. It's ugly as hell. This game is there's a lot of YouTube videos of this game, and it's a really really disgusting game. This Pacers team, man, especially Reggie has a great game. He has 22 points. He's 4-7 from 3. The rest of the Pacers, they didn't really show up at all. Rick Smits had a good game. He had 13 points. Not much else for him. Dale Davis had 9 points and 9 rebounds. This game is particularly interesting if you follow our Twitter account, because a few days ago I tweeted out a screenshot from this, and the Pacers had decided, hey, let's all shave our heads, which for some of the guys, including like a Dale Davis or Reggie Miller, not a big deal. Chris Mullin and Rick Smits are horrifying as bald men. Tall, like pale, bald white man is just a very weird look.
It's not,
especially a Rick Smits kind of.
That was the one that was a little bit questionable.
Like Mullen,
yeah.
I mean, it was almost an upgrade over the crew cut. I won't say that much, but Rick Smits was a horrifying downgrade from the golden locks of his youth.
I mean, he really did have some golden locks. I mean, they were
really great hair. Like,
yeah.
Like I would have said, like, no, guys, you all shave your head, but I'm not getting rid of you.
Yeah.
Like, come on, that was a lot of work for him to get that, and then I mean, come on.
I mean, Rick Smits might be top 50 all time hairstyles, in NBA.
Yeah, why haven't we done a podcast on that?
I mean, we just haven't gotten to it yet.
Why don't we stop this? What are we doing right now? This is dumb. But yeah, no, it's a very interesting game for that respect. The Bulls are, you know this Bulls team. This is 98 Bulls team.
I do know them.
Rodman has an okay game, not really good by his standards. Only 6 rebounds, which is for Rodman in a playoff game is like a super low. I mean, this is a guy who always showed up, rebound wise in big games. Pippen had a good game, 17 points. Jordan, of course, had a solid game, as he's wanting to do, 28 points and 9 rebounds. But he shot a lot from the floor, 9 of 25, so he struggled a little bit.
It's Kobe-esque.
Tony Kukoc, though, was really good, and he was kind of a star. A lot of people forget, how good of a contribution he was in these late Bulls years. Like, I don't really know if they win as many titles or any of these titles really without him, being a solid hand there. Here he has 21 points, 7-11 shooting, 3 from 4 from 3. Just a well-balanced team this Bulls team was, and people sort of remember Jordan being the guy, and he obviously is, but these teams were a lot of ways built on, Pippen being still really good, and then Tony Kukoc, as I mentioned, being a big part of that as well. And even after the game, Jordan mentions in a quote, they're doing an interview, and you can find that in the YouTube video, where he says, everybody kind of focuses on giving the ball to me, and everybody focuses on me, but he said, this year, this team, this is a total team that we have, and they haven't had that a lot, where usually you kind of have Jordan as the security blanket, but this team needed other guys, and Kukoc was one of those guys. So one of the big points of this game, though, the margin, the second chance points margin. The Bulls had 26-1 second chance points for the Pacers. Offensive rebound percentage, the Bulls had 42.3, and the Pacers had 12.5. And that was bared out in a lot of the quotes as well. This is Larry Bird's first year coaching the Indiana Pacers, and he says, we definitely got the effort, but we got beat to a lot of loose balls, and it seems like the little things beat us. We're not a great rebounding team on the offensive boards, and we were overmatched. It seemed like they were quicker to the ball. They got a couple offensive rebounds that ripped our hearts out. So, and this is a pretty telling game. I mean, obviously, the ramifications of this game. I mean, that they speak for themselves. The Bulls were a dynasty that was just about over, and everybody kind of knew it. And again, the narrative is that Jared Krause blew this team up, and the Bulls manager blew his team up. If you read the article immediately following the game, as it says, the Bulls on their last stand, like everybody knew this was it. This was over. Team was done. Everybody was going away after this. So, but the Pacers in a lot of ways kind of reinvented themselves as well. And, it was only a few years later then they'd be in the NBA Finals with, a dramatically different team with different guys sort of being, the charges and being the leads of it. So it's kind of interesting to see, but, this is still the core Pacers team that we kind of remember, but it'd be a few years and they kind of reinvent themselves a few times. But just kind of a really ugly game, but a nice close one, and one that's definitely, warrants mention on this list.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the closest that the Jordan Bulls, once they became a championship team with Jordan, that came to losing in any of those stretch of 6 championships. I mean, this is like sort of the latest in a series they were forced to a Game 7, sort of the tightest margin they had. I mean, I know they went to Game 7 against the Knicks, and there were some other times that were tight, but I think this might be like the closest they came to to failing during that stretch.
I mean, they were a minute away, really, or almost 2 minutes away from just losing, and then only winning 5 titles and not going. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah, I mean that would make that would make a difference in how we think of them. I mean, they would still obviously be amazing, but it would definitely,
especially the Jordan, because. Obviously, what happened is, he leaves the NBA with that shot, with the shot over, by Russell or whatever, and you wouldn't get that. I mean, that you straight up would not get that. His last memory would be, shaking Reggie Miller's hand, and like that. It's just unfathomable to think of that.
Who wants to see that?
Yeah, right. And everyone's bald. Like all the Pacers are bald. Like that's the team that represents you. Like, come on, they're all weirdos. Like I'm honestly saying, go look up this video. There's like a huddle that they take, and first off, Larry Bird, where's your commitment to the team? Has a full head of hair. That's cool, dude. But you just see it, like everybody gets in the huddle. And they're all like freshly shaven heads, and it's just like, oh, what are you guys doing? Like, it's kind of creepy. It's very Indiana Pacers in a lot of ways. So
yeah, I wonder who would have won a Pacers Jazz finals.
I don't know. Oh God, would we have wanted to see that? Can you imagine that series?
Well, I mean, I don't know. It would be interesting. I mean, I guess it would be interesting to see who would have won because it would have been a player who never won a championship. Otherwise.
Yeah, there would be. Yeah, I think that would be the one. I mean, the games would be ugly as sin, but there'd be a cool value, at least for me, in that respect, because I always loved that idea of guys that, even though it's stupid, even though I think the ring argument is really dumb, I like seeing guys win their one ring so people stop mentioning it ever again. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think the ring, like, I do think I'm sure we'll get into this more in later podcasts, but I do think there is something to like being the best player on a team that wins a ring. I mean, there's a lot of circumstances, but I do think like winning, being the best player or being a large contributor to a championship team or multiple championship teams, I think that does give you an edge over players who haven't, but that's obviously not the end all be all.
Mm-hmm. But this would have been, like you mentioned, that would have been a particularly good one because then, you kind of get rid of it for Karl Malone or you get rid of it for Reggie Miller. And I think it haunts Malone a little bit more than it haunts Reggie Miller. But, it's pretty...
I think, Reggie was a really good player, but, like, Karl Malone's an all-time. Like, he's one of the three best power forwards of all time. And, like, it's just weird that he never won a championship.
Yeah, and it's obviously, it disturbed Malone a little bit because, we see the later years where he went to the Lakers and was like, that was his goal again and got close again and lost. So it was something that definitely defined his career, in the later half, and really. Whereas Reggie, I don't know if anybody really defines his career by he didn't win.
Yeah, a ring. I think I don't think he was like quite good enough to.
I think he overperformed what he really. Or at least performed about what he should have done. The Pacers were about as successful as I kind of think that they should have been.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I mean, he's like a top 10 shooting guard of all time, but he's not.
Right, exactly. Whereas Malone is, arguably, and I don't think so anymore, but arguably, the best power forward ever.
Other than Duncan, he's probably next on the list, or at least in off the top of my head anyway. So, so the our runner-up, although I deferred to you on this order, but I would put this as the first. But it's the Boston Celtics against the Philadelphia 76ers in the 1981 Eastern Conference Finals. The Celtics winning 91-90. This is part of a huge Celtics 76ers rivalry in the early 80s. I mean, they met in the playoffs 3 or 4 years in a row, deep series. This was a 3-1 rally comeback by the Celtics. They would the next season they would come close to replicating that, although the Sixers would finally stave them off. You're talking about the Dr. J Sixers. You're talking about Bird in his second season, Parrish and McHale on the Celtics for their first season. The Celtics also have Cedric Maxwell, Tiny Archibald. The 76ers have Daryl Dawkins, Bobby Jones, Maurice Cheeks, Andrew Toney early in his career. So
Lionel Hollins, future head coach.
That's right. Lionel Hollins was there too.
A lot of head coaches in this. If you look at this, you got Lionel Hollins, Larry Bird, ML Carr.
Yeah.
Chris Ford. Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. Kevin McHale.
Yeah.
Anyone we're missing here? Oh, Mo Cheeks.
Oh yeah, Mo Cheeks. Yes.
Jeez.
Yeah. Emil Carr was a coach. I thought he was just
he was the coach. Unfortunately, he got a weird. Yeah, I think we might have talked about him. He had like a weird stint as the coach of the Celtics, right?
Oh, that's right. Okay,
he was their executive.
He was executive. I just didn't remember that he was.
Yeah, and then I think it was one of those like we talked about kind of the oddities where he went from exec to coach and then to just nothing because like you're not good at any of those. So
there you go.
Go away.
But he was good. He was good at waving a towel though.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah,
he was an excellent towel waver. That's right. Yeah, he did coach he coached him for 2 years. So there you go. Yes. So, obviously, this is, longtime Boston Philly rivalry. 5 of the 7 games were decided by 2 points or fewer, including each of the last 4. Just a really rough and tumble physical game. Just 1 field goal in the last 3 minutes. Larry Bird has the famous go-ahead bank shot in the final minute. Maurice Cheeks has a chance to tie the game at the line, but misses 1 of 2. And then the final play is Bobby Jones just slightly overthrowing Julius Erving in the inbound, and the Sixers don't have a chance to win, and the Celtics rally and win. So just a really kind of an epitome of just a really, tough physical rivalry. Erving has 23 points. Bird also has 23 points. Maxwell had 19. Jared Dawkins had 16. So not like necessarily obviously it was a pretty low scoring game. So not necessarily like any outstanding individual performances,
right,
scoring wise, but just great players. Bird in his youth taking over the league or taking over half the league, where Magic's taking the other half of the league, so to speak. Erving was still there and was still great and was people I think kind of forget that the first 4 years of Bird's career, Erving went to the finals 3 of those 4 years. So
right,
good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you mentioned the early Bird. We mentioned McHale as well, and he was still just
he was a rookie this year,
a little baby. Yeah, or he was still a rookie as well. Yeah. Okay, so it'd be a while till he would kind of come into form. And I really kind of think when you look at, and it's probably not completely a hot take or whatever, but a lot of the Celtics success was him turning into just a really good player, and it took 3 or 4 years for him to really get to an all-star level. Once he did, a lot of ways they were off and running, and It's pretty telling when you see that as well, and Parrish as well was another guy who sort of had to step his game up and become that guy for them to really do it. But yeah, it's kind of, we forget, like you said, that Dr. J, kind of was the toast of that conference for a few years until Bird and the Celtics really took it over. But yeah, it was one of his opportunities to kind of get there. But yeah, an interesting game, and yeah, like you said, maybe not the the best game is like a beautiful game, but just a nice rough and tumble.
I think the intensity is so incredible in this game. It's one of the most intense games I've seen. It really does have like that. So it's beautiful in that sense, but yeah, it doesn't quite have the same. It has good passing, it has good ball movement. There are exciting things, but it's ugly in a different way than like some like the mid-90s Knicks type games are.
Absolutely, exactly. Yeah, them missing shots wasn't just because they had nobody that could score. It was because it wasn't like the God, like who the hell do we like? Okay, Derek Harper, you take a shot. Like it wasn't that. We ran down these guys here. These are really really great scorers up and down the. It was such an intense game, and everybody was just playing to the full abilities and full intensity. So that was more what I meant in terms of not But yeah, it was absolutely a great game and an easy choice. I didn't pick it as my number 1, but an easy choice for the top 7 and no doubt an easy choice for the top 3. And even, I wouldn't argue with you putting it as number 1 at all.
Well, good.
Except I'm going to argue because I chose number 1 is the Lakers and the Blazers from 2000, 89-84. And this, come on, this game. We've talked about it during our Scottie Pippen podcast. We've talked about it in numerous podcasts. It's the one, the iconic, Shaq Kobe alley-oop combo at the end, the epic collapse by the Blazers, the Blazers coming so close and losing, and just kind of just a total, we talk about the transformations of franchises. This one in particular is just so glaring because it would sort of be the jail Blazers after this, and they would fall apart, and it would be, many, many, many years until they would even get anywhere close to this level, and you could argue they still haven't gotten anywhere near close to this level, and they really haven't. Whereas the Lakers, went on to have, numerous titles and then the Kobe Shaq and all that sort of stuff. But this game in particular is just incredible. LA takes a 3-1 series lead, then drops 2 games in a row to Portland. So this set up a winner-take-all Game 7. And this is a one where the crowd is just insane this game. It's just an unbelievable crowd. The Lakers mount a great comeback in this game. Just so much good stuff in this game. I mean, where did you have this on your list? I forgot where you ranked it, but this is my easy number.
It would probably be number 2. So it's not. So we're not far off on this for sure.
Right. But when we talk about storylines and stuff and how important those are weaving into like a good game, I mean, this is a game that I think of. Just so much stuff is in this game and so many different, careers and guys in this and people that are stars and fading stars and just different team dynamics too with that Portland team. You look at that roster and it's just like a video game roster of so many good guys, but it just doesn't quite, work, and it doesn't quite, beat the Lakers. And, the Lakers have to come back from a huge deficit. Shaq is it's unbelievable. But the interesting part, Shaq doesn't have a great first part of the game, but then explodes in the fourth quarter. Has 9 points. Kobe has a great game: 25 points, 11 rebounds, 7 assists, and 4 blocks. Ridiculous enough.
Yeah.
And then obviously, the rim rattling, alley oop is just the iconic. I mean, it's just something you still see to this day in every video package. Is Shaq throwing down that alley oop and just pointing to Kobe, and it was just iconic in so many different ways.
Right, and that at that point they were up by 6 with 40 seconds left. And essentially winning that, essentially sealing the game there. And yeah, I mean, Portland led by 15 with 10 minutes left in the game. They missed 13 consecutive shots, including 6 by Rasheed Wallace. They're 15 for 23 in the final in the fourth quarter. And yeah, that's just that's just pretty amazing. Yeah, the Lakers outscored the Blazers 31-13. So I think the thing for me is that, it sets up the Lakers story for the next, 3 or 4 years. It's just like, basically, LA has an almost insurmountable lead and then just, is about as low as it possibly can get, and then rallies back and, and holds on, and then, kind of smooth sailing from there. I mean, it is just the dramatic arc, I guess, that from that is kind of what puts that for me in sort of the top tier, which kind of, splits it apart from the Lakers Kings, which is also, has a lot of dramatics and has a lot of interesting things and has some similarities. But I just think that the kind of the point in the Shaq Kobe Lakers that they're in, I think, spices it up a little bit for me, for lack of a better.
Sure. And that the epic collapse as well. Whereas, the Kings, it wasn't necessarily that. I mean, there was stuff that, obviously the Kings, like I mentioned, probably should have won that game for a lot of reasons.
They were the better team for sure.
The Blazers, the Blazers, up 15 with 10 to go is like, you're good.
It's pretty close to about as, it's about as safe. It's pretty close to a safe lead at that point.
Exactly. Yeah. Like the Kings hypothetically should have won this game, but the Blazers, literally, no reason they should have lost this game.
Right.
And it took an epic collapse and an epic, Lakers comeback or whatever to do that. And it was just, it's such a big game and such a fun game too. I mean, I love that. I mean, that Blazers team is just a fascinating team of just that roster and the construction of that roster. And the fact that, hey, they were able to get that close with that, construction of the roster, and it didn't work. And it's just weird how, we talk about, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, just completely changing around a franchise. And it absolutely, Portland is just fallen on a lot of hard times. And they're still a good franchise, and I wouldn't call them a model franchise or whatever right now, but just so many issues that happen from that and having to rebuild multiple times with multiple different stars or whatever. And they just still haven't found the right mix to get to where they were with this, this bunch, but just a great roster and a great team. And the Lakers are a fun team too. Like you mentioned, this is sort of the early budding of their, dynasty. So it's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. Good times. Anything else to say about Game 7s in the conference finals?
No, I don't know. I'm sure there's going to be one or two that people say that we missed. I feel like we did a great job with this, though. But of course, if we do, please let us know if there's one that, hey, you guys are idiots. This one's obviously pretty good. But, we mentioned the honorable mentions. But no, You talk about these are really just some really spectacular games. And we mentioned a few times that if there's video for these, definitely watch them. I mean, nothing will get you more pumped up for watching, today's playoff games or today's basketball than watching these classic games and just seeing these unbelievable crowds and just unbelievable stars of years past. I mean, that's what's so awesome about doing this, that we do on this podcast, that I can go back and watch these, and it kind of rekindles my love of basketball every time I go and watch these. So it's great.
Absolutely. So thanks, everyone, for checking us out. You can find us at thepodiumgame.com. We are part of the Hardwood Paroxysm Basketball Network of podcasts, which you can find on iTunes if you search for Hardwood Paroxysm. And we would love a rating and review, not just for Over and Back, but for all the other great podcasts on the Podium Game Network, at thepodiumgame.com. And so you can also check us out on Twitter at Over and Back NBA, also on Facebook at the same address. That's about it, Rich.
Yeah, that's all I got. So it's definitely a good show, and I'm looking forward to our top 7 NBA finals too.
Yeah.
It's going to be a very interesting one.
Yeah. So anyone who wants to express an opinion about top 7 NBA finals before, we've made our choices right now, but we could always be convinced by a compelling argument. If you want to send us,
right,
your favorite or a memory or something interesting about that, we would, be interested in learning about it and maybe even sharing something on the show. So
yeah, absolutely. You know the flow of these shows now, so you know kind of what we're looking for here. So yeah, if you find one that fits our criteria, that you think, hey, you guys have to cover this, there's a good chance we probably have, but maybe we haven't. So definitely let us know.
All right, cool. All right, Rich. Well, take care, everyone. Until next time.